After a 6-year, highly publicized legal saga, the USA women's national soccer team has won its battle for equal pay.
Yes, we play sports. Yes, we play soccer. Yes, we're female athletes, but we're so much more than that. You're so much more than that.
But what could this mean for Canada? With the women winning Olympic gold and 2 World Cups coming up within the next year, the urgency in how this conversation evolves up north has never been greater. This is In Conversation with Amy Walsh, Meg Linehan, and Kaylyn Kyle. Amy, thank you so much for joining me. It's always a pleasure to see your face. We're talking equal pay. It has been a saga, 6 years in the making. How important is this? How important is it for the Canadian landscape?
Well, yeah, landmark decision for the US, 6-year battle. I think, though, that the turning point for them, so they lose the lawsuit for institutionalized gender discrimination, and it looks a little bit like the battle's lost, but they end up winning in the end. And I think in part because they go to the table collectively with the men's team.
Yeah, I mean, I was on that first media call when the players submitted their EEOC complaint. So it really has been a 6-year journey for me even. And really, I think the thing that got this across the line from a US point of view is the fact that a former women's national team player came into the president role in Cindy Parlow-Cone and was able to handle the politics of the situation, because it's not just, as you're experiencing in Canada right now, it's not just the senior national teams who are trying to have this conversation. And so you need that central internal figure who's going to be able to figure out how to navigate a very complicated negotiation. But there's always been 2 parts to this, of both having the CBA negotiations forward-looking and the lawsuit, which was looking to the past and looking to address what they considered to be problems with equal pay in the past. And you had to solve both of those in order to actually get to where we are right now in the US. And honestly, it still feels like a miracle that we got here. What is really interesting about this, both the settlement and then the CBA, right, is that it does provide a model for other teams. Looking at what's happening in Canada, I see the same sorts of arguments being deployed by the Canadian Soccer Association, which is, well, we have the para teams, we have youth teams, we have all of these programs that have to be taken care of, but the same arguments were used by US Soccer, and ultimately those were not successful arguments. There should be prize money that goes into the investment of the game. And I think players also understand that as well. But when players are actively the ones winning the prize money, there needs to be that discussion of how this is going to get split.
45% going to the women's side, 45% going to the male side, and 10% going to the federation. That makes sense. Now you can say, oh, well, the US women's national team, they've won World Cups, they've won Olympic Games. Their men's team hasn't done that. So why isn't Canada Soccer in that situation? Our women's team have now got gold at an Olympic Games, back-to-back bronze medals. We've hosted a Women's World Cup and did quite well. So it doesn't make sense to me that we're so far behind. We still do not have a domestic female league. We're the only top 10 nation in all of the world that doesn't have a domestic league.
The CSA has been operating on a budget that has been done without this money. So now you have this injection of funds, and I'm not saying give it all to the players. Yes, some of it has to be given to our para soccer teams, our youth teams, our futsal teams, our referees, our coaching development. So it has to be a relevant and equitable distribution of these funds. And so if the women are able to come into this money, we see photos of the men traveling on business class. The women's team doesn't get that. So it's so important for the women to have something in place at their national team, at the federation, that dictates equal work, or equal pay rather, for equal work. It's so important going forward that foundation is set.
There's been a little bit of confusion. Equal percentage versus equal pay. Can you clear up any of that confusion for me, please?
Yes, I can, absolutely. So for Qatar this fall, the men will receive, all of the teams involved, 32 teams, upwards of $450 million from FIFA for performance fees, but also just appearance fees for the federation. So as the teams progress, their chances of winning more bonus money increases. Same thing for the women, same sort of structure, except that the money that they're working with compared to 450, if not more for the men, about 60 million for the women. So you see the gulf in between those two figures. And so if you're talking about respective percentages of that money, you're really talking about apples and oranges here. So for our men's team to include the need for a domestic pro league, awesome. I love the support. For them to say that it's a percentage of respective FIFA monies, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that it's just a language issue, that they're maybe just not as attuned to it as the women are, because they've been fighting this fight for a long time.
Well, I think the best part about it, and I have to give mad props and mad respect to our men's team, because they used one of their last windows to boycott a game and stand up for what we've all been looking for in the past: transparency from the Canadian Soccer Association, honesty from the Canadian Soccer Association. I will put my hand up and say, I didn't think we were going to qualify for this. So that money coming in, the Canadian Soccer Association didn't know that money was coming in. I think with the revenue that they have brought in from FIFA, obviously a men's World Cup, you get more revenue, you get more money into your federation. You look at the 2015 World Cup, quite frankly, it got Canada, and for a fact, it got the Canadian Soccer Association through the pandemic. And the Canadian women's side is still not reaping any of the benefits. We're still not seeing any of the money. We're still not seeing domestically. We're still not seeing first-class flights. We're still not seeing money from tournament winnings. Like, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, I didn't go to business school, but it's the little things that make things successful. And right now, within the Canadian Soccer Association, at the highest level, it hasn't been done right. There's no trust within the players, former and current. So that's number 1A. And the general secretary, lovely guy, but has no idea how to build a sustainable business model within the Canadian Soccer Association. So until we have those two changed, Canada Soccer is always going to look like Canada Soccer, and it's not going to be able to sustain what they want and what their vision is.
Are other federations going to learn from US Soccer and see how expensive it was, not just in terms of the bottom line, but in terms of public perception? Because a lot of damage was done and a lot of trust was hurt as well.